moving over to editing. We then have all of our fade options here. Typically I'll flick these over to power. Maybe it's just too much music editing or what have you for me, but I find that equal power is just a little bit more musical. We then have the ability to auto-name memory locations during playback. That can come in handy, depends on your workflow. The other ones here would be the zoom toggle. This is probably one of the most fundamental prefs that I always tweak to my own liking. Personally, I always tick all the boxes. I don't like the range selection to be there after I've zoomed in because I have to click somewhere to get rid of it generally and start editing anyway, so I always get rid of that. Separate grid settings to me makes a lot more sense, so that I can be in a coarse grid when I'm zoomed out, and when I zoom in and hit the E key, we're talking about the E key when command focus or keyboard focus is engaged. That's what all of these prefs control. When you hit the E key, I want to have a separate grid setting, a finer grid. So you might be talking about a one frame grid when you're zoomed out. When you zoom in with the E key, you'll go into subframes, quarter frames, or what have you, whatever your requirements may be. The zoom toggle following the edit selection just means that you can hit the up and down keys in keyboard focus, which is P and semicolon, and it will basically move you down to the next track, and that will explode up on screen for you. That can be quite handy if you're working through crossfades on a scene and you just want to toggle down through your ambiences or toggle down through the particular tracks that butt up against each other at a scene change, or when you've got backing vocals that you need to edit up, things like this. Track height, I always change it over to fit to window. To me, it just makes more sense that I know what's going on that way. When I've got it on fit to window, you hit E and it goes to max, and there's no doubt in your mind that you are currently in a zoom toggle mode. The only other way to be aware of whether you're zoom toggled in or not is to watch this icon up here underneath the magnifying glass for when that goes blue. Track view, it's personal preference. These days I've shuffled over to using it on no change, so it's more of a, if I'm in volume view on my track, then it will stay in volume view when I zoom over. If I put it on last used, which is my alternative that I generally use, last used just means that on a track by track basis you have a cache, so each track will remember the last state that you switched it into when you were zoomed in. So you've got expanded your track, you flick it over to mute automation, you zoom out again, you go back to waveform view. Anytime you come back to that track and you zoom in on it, you'll see mute automation there until you change it again inside the zoom toggle state.